Hello everyone, welcome back to Flying Solo with Kat, and today we're going to be talking about some of my favorite Star Wars ships. And before we get started, I do just want to say that these are all my opinions. I tried to pick the ships that are most popular, but if you're not big into shipping or just kind of want to keep in your corner of the galaxy, when it comes to shipping, I would request probably not watching this video. Most of my comments will be totally positive, and of course, you know, as I always say, or as everyone says in the community, all ships are valid, and that whatever you ship is totally okay, with me. And y'all are super creative and honestly come up with pairs that I would never think to ship, and it turns out to be honestly awesome. So, the only reason I'm doing this video is because it's gonna be Valentine's Day on Wednesday, and I thought it would be kind of fun. So if you're not huge into shipping or just, kind of want to bypass the video, don't worry about it. You won't miss anything. I'll be back to the video next week and hopefully Bad Batch very, very soon. I'm so excited. So that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. So first, I'm going to go start from the prequels all the way to the sequels, and I'm going to add in some TV shows, movies, and some of these will be actual relationships. And when I say like relationships, I mean you could have a friendship, you can have a sexual relationship, or you can have a more intimate relationship, but without seeing it being sexual on screen. And that's really important too, is for me, when I hear relationship, I don't immediately think of the sexual implications. A lot of times I do for certain characters, but a couple of these on here, which I will definitely go over, are definitely more friendship. But I thought, even Valentine's Day, hanging out with your friends and being there for each other is so, so important. And it's not only about relationships. So I did want to add them in there just, um, you know, to put something down. So I wanted to say that. But some of these are canon, which I'll also go over, and some of these are not. But I think they should be canon. So first, we're gonna start off with Amidala, the parents of all of these Star Wars ships. They are quite literally the parents of, the first true, like, set in stone relationship. Now, y'all, I'm not forgetting about Han and Leia. We will go into them. I'm going from order from prequels to, you know, sequels. So let's think OT hasn't happened by this time. But Amidala is just, it's so, so good. I love the sense of a Jedi Knight that shouldn't, be having relations with a senator. Like, that sounds like so scandalous. But when you look at like Anakin and Amidala, Padme, they are so sweet and just so, so kind to each other. And that makes Anakin's fall even more tragic, because the only reason that he fell is because he wanted to save Padme, and because of his fear and his doubt, and he wasn't getting the help that he needed. But it all rooted from his love for Padme. Now, does that make it Padme's fault? Absolutely not. They are a team in this, and Anakin not talking about that with his wife, and about his fears of, having children, him being a father, he did not express those. So they were a very healthy relationship, but also they were tragic. And it's unfortunate of what happened to them in the end. But even in the Vader comics, or what we see of Vader, you could see that sadness, but that's all from Padme, from losing Padme. And in these relationships, it's really all you can ask for, is that when you're gone, that your partner would love you still the same way, and keep thinking of you. And that's truly where Darth Vader's power stems from, is from losing Padme. But they're so sweet. One of my favorite movies is Attack of the Clones, and it's actually my favorite prequel movie. And it's very much like it's very much a romance movie. It's very kind of embedded into the story. Poor Obi-Wan, he's just on Camino trying to do stuff while Anakin's just, having fun with Padme. And even though the dialogue is probably not the best, if you decipher what the story that George Lucas wanted to tell, And with that dialogue, like, I don't like sand, whatever, but Anakin is truly saying that he doesn't like his life back on Tatooine, that he wants a different life, one that's more peaceful. And he finds that with Padme. And yes, was it written as well as that? No, but you take a look at Anakin and Padme and their connection, and out of, Padme is a senator. She is a very strong working woman that has people literally trying to kill her in Attack of the Clones. And they want her dead while Anakin is trying to be a Jedi Master, but he keeps failing and is working for the Republic. And even though they have all this other stuff going on, they still have time to love each other. And it's so genuine and so special. And like I said, that's what makes Anakin's fall even more heartbreaking, is because of their split connection at the end and him ultimately killing her. So I love Amidala. I use that to influence a lot of my fics that I personally write, just because their relationship is so good. And yeah, so love Amidala. For the Clone Wars, I think the one that stands out for me is Obi-Teen. I couldn't go through this list without mentioning Obi-Teen. It's basically the opposite of Amidala. If Obi-Teen would have happened, it would have probably been the same as Amidala, but I think Obi-Wan wouldn't have. I think he would have left the Jedi Order. I mean, one of the most romantic things you could say to someone is, I would have left the Jedi Order if, you would have told me to. And like, that scene was so tragic because he probably would have. But Satine, just like Padme, had a duty to Mandalore and had a duty to her people. And if she said the word, he would have left, then what would have that left her with, right? And they had a job to do, which is so tragic. And that's something that happens in war more times than not. But Obi-Wan kind of pushing through those feelings and kind of moving on in the sense of how Anakin couldn't with his mother, and letting that die. And, honestly, the fact that Obi-Wan did not turn to the dark side when Satine left, or she was killed by Maul, like, is kind of shocking. And how Obi-Wan was so different than Anakin, and Anakin was probably always destined to go down the path of the dark side. And yeah, but Obi-Teen is just precious in the sense of, like, they're so similar to Padme and Anakin and yet so different, and it was different circumstances. But I love just even Obi-Teen. Obi-Teen by itself is so precious because you could tell Satine's love for Obi-Wan and how precious that is. So that one's a very, very sad ship, especially what happens to Satine. But Obi-Wan made it through. He did. I don't know how he did, but he did. Next, we're going to go on to Bad Batch, and probably one of my favorite ships out of the entire thing is Fee and Tech. I am a huge Bad Batch lover, and y'all know because I talked about it 2 weeks ago, but their whole family dynamic is like one of my favorite, I guess, quote-unquote ships. Is just how they're a family, and it's so found family, and I love it. But Fee and Tech are really, really cute together, and how she compliments him, and Tech kind of just, took it into stride. Granted, it's so hard because we only saw like a couple of episodes with them and not a full season, so it was hard to get invested in their love story. But I definitely think it's cute, and I do think, as I said a couple weeks ago, that Fee is gonna be like, we're gonna go get my mans, we're gonna go save him from the Empire, and we're gonna get him back. So I do hope that happens, because I would just love to have Fee welcomed into the Bad Batch and just have her with Tech. I feel like that would just be so precious. So of course I had to mention them. They're so sweet. Next we have Rebels. We're gonna start off with some Calzeb. Okay, this is my guilty pleasure, but the episode, I have always loved Agent Callus. honestly love him. He's great. I love his whole, basically, I'm the spy sense of continuing to work for the Empire and kind of helping out the rebels at the same time, and him kind of growing to move through his mistakes and learn, and kind of Zeb taking him in. But the only reason why he even does all of that is because of Zeb, and because Zeb inspired him back on that moon. And my gosh, it's just so, so good. Of even if it was just a friendship, like how Zeb inspired Callus to fight for the rebellion and to go back and do something important with his life is so special and meaningful. And I feel like a lot of people kind of skimp that over with them, but I love it so much. I love them so much. I love the ending where Zeb introduces Callus to the Lasats and kind of saying that, hey, we weren't all destroyed. There's still more of us out there. Will you help me? Like that. Oh my gosh. Literally gets me chills every time I think about it because I love them so much. And I do hope, I pray almost like, that we see Callus and Zeb back together in Ahsoka. Like, we, of course, we saw Zeb in The Mandalorian, which is great, but everyone's like, where's Callus? Where's his, where's his man? So those are my guilty pleasure for Rebels. I always find myself going back and watching the Moon episode where they get stranded, and also just watching a Callus and Zeb, or even Callus like compilation of him, how he reacts to the rebels and the ghost crew, and just how he feels a part of the family. It's so sweet, and I love them. Kane and Hera as well for Rebels. There was no way I was not going to mention them. I love them. I love how they're kind of like, they're dating. They're in a relationship. They're basically married, but they have a job to do. Now, I have not finished New Dawn. I need to finish New Dawn because I know there's major Kane and Hera in there, and basically it's the start of their relationship. But even in Rebels, like, I see it so much in the sense of, these people that are trying to, basically created a family, right? They brought on Sabine Wren, they brought on Zeb, Chopper, then Ezra. It truly does feel like they're the parents of this family, which made them even closer together. But um, for both of them, I think them moving on from their parents with Hera, and for Kanan with the Jedi Order, and them kind of trying to make their own way in the galaxy together, is so special, and something that was really cool to see. And just, they were literally the parents of the group. And for a lot of Star Wars fans, they're the parents of us, right? They really, have such a kind and caring way of just taking people in and doing what's good for the galaxy. And, you have a pilot and a Jedi. It's just these tropes that are taken in a way and written in a way that makes the relationship feel so grounded and real. Normally, I'm not a huge one for romance. I mean, I'll tell you guys that now, but when I see these in these TV shows and in these movies, a lot of times I get very invested into it because of how Star Wars moves through it. How, fighting the Empire, fighting the First Order, fighting just the basis of the Republic, and the biases of the New Republic, and seeing that influenced in people's actions is just, it makes the relationship a lot more heartfelt and real, in my opinion. And that's honestly how I feel for Kanan and Hera. And it's tragic of her losing Kanan, and we're even seeing that in Ahsoka, to where um, people bringing him up, and you could tell she's still kind of more reserved, but she has Jason, and I think that's so special too, how Jason is basically Hera and it's canon, right? Basically Hera and Kanan's son, and that, Kanan's story lives on through Hera and through Jason. So I love them. They're, like I said, they're literally the parents of Star Wars, and just like Annie Dalla, they're amazing. Rogue One, I loved Cassian and Jyn. Now, granted, I didn't like them on my first like two rewatches. I was just like, I'm not vibing with it. I want Jyn to like kind of just be on her own. I'm not seeing like the Cassian and Jyn, but I see them more as like what could have been. After rewatching Rogue One probably a couple months ago and kind of analyzing it for the relationships that each person had with each character in Rogue One was so special, and as well as Baze and Chirrup, and they definitely are something special, and they're definitely together. I'm not, that's also another one. And they're super sweet. But with Cassian and Jyn, I always view it as what could have been if they had gotten off Scarif. Or, that hug at the end is one of the most heartfelt, I'm getting chills again, one of the most heartfelt hugs. And even if they didn't kiss, even if they didn't really, have any mutual ground that they were laying upon, you could tell that connection and tell that at least at the end they were friends. And especially when Cassian says your father would have been proud of you. That was something Jyn needed to hear, and something Cassian knew she needed to hear, and the hug like solidified that. Oh my gosh. That movie is so good and yet so sad. And Cassie and Jyn is, I always think of them in the ship sense of what could have been. Their friendship was so strong, and I liked how immediately they didn't take to one another, and that Jyn was kind of just doing this to find her father. But after that, she thought, she rallied the troops together even when Cassian had doubts for the rebellion. And that's what made them such a good team together, and I love them. Next, we have my favorite movie that I've been really, really into right now is from Solo. And I love L337 and Lando. I think they are such a good pair. I commented a bit about this on my personal Twitter, but their relationship of being kind of friends, but you can also tell there's something more. And I especially love how L3, when Kiara asks L3 of her relationship with Lando, she says, "Oh, it's all but professional. There's nothing there." And Kiara can even kind of tell, like, is there's got to be something there, at least like a spark. And Lando, especially when L3 goes down and him running out there to save her, and her being a part of the Millennium Falcon, and moving forward, she being kind of implemented into the ship that Lando loved, was really sad but really special, and a connection that we don't really see. I do wish that there were a lot more droids in human relationships. I feel like you have Star Wars that is such a droid and alien based universe that there's not a lot of relationships that tend to go into aliens and droids. And part of that could literally, from the real life standpoint, be it's really, really hard for actors to act with droids and aliens. But I only see that as an excuse. I feel like it just needs to be implemented in the stories a lot more, and for them to be given a chance, because I'm a huge fan of Lando and L337 and kind of what that showed for them. And I love seeing them on screen, and them going off of each other was just, it's so special, and I love their relationship. So had to mention them. For OT, we have, of course, Han Leia. I love Han Leia. I think it's just Harrison and Carrie's, honestly, relationship on screen is just so good. But I love you, I know. That is one of the most iconic love, confessions in media, I think, still to this day. And I love them. I love them so much. I tend to not like them as much in the sequels, because I feel like there was something that was missed there, and that maybe they weren't honestly really supposed to be together and meant to be together, but they had so much love for one another. And I think from what they had gone through with defeating the Empire and everything, it kind of just worked out for them. So them loving each other and being in a relationship really worked, but them being parents, probably not. And you could definitely be in a relationship with someone and have a really, really good relationship, but once you have kids, it starts to falter and you're not ready for parenthood and they're not ready for parenthood. Which is, I mean, I don't want to say it's okay, but it's definitely something that a lot of people miss, saying like, oh, well, they were terrible, terrible parents, so they were not, in a good relationship. I mean, at that time, but we see in OT of how they grow together and how Han tends to learn from Leia, and Leia kind of learns from Han in the sense of getting away and, doing things kind of in the spur of the moment instead of planning. And for them, I love them. Do I like them as parents? No, but I love them in a relationship, and they're so fun on screen. I love how Leia rescues Han, and it's just the tropes kind of all mesh together, and they're kind of like the perfect couple, in my opinion. And you kind of have this guy that's overly flirtatious, and this woman that's, kind of sure of herself and knows what she wants and when she wants it. And Han, what I like too is that he doesn't seem like overly like, oh no, I'm really gonna flirt with her and be kind of weird or whatever. And we kind of, it almost gets that way in Empire Strikes Back, but it doesn't get to the sense of just honestly weirding me out and not liking Han. So I think it was a good balance of him just being kind of like a himbo, flirtatious guy, with Leia kind of wanting to give into it, but also knowing her duty. So super fun. I love them so much. Mandalorian. I am not a huge Bo-Katan and Din Djarin shipper, but I know a lot of people ship them, and I do understand that. I think for me, I've always kind of seen Bo-Katan, I guess, do her own thing. Back in the day, I kind of shipped Bo-Katan and Ahsoka. That was kind of one of the main things that I did because they were kind of on and off working together, not working together. So kind of that's more what I shipped. But for Bo-Katan and Din, I actually really see it. And I like how, of course, they passed off the Darksaber to each other. And as well, they work off of each other great. And I mean, they're both Mandalorians. Din is trying to get her into kind of learning more of the ways of the Mandalorian and not taking off her helmet and doing all of that. And especially in season 3. I mean, they were literally together the entire time. And I love Bo-Katan and Katie Sackhoff. Lovely, lovely person. And how she acts as Bo-Katan is just really, really good. It makes me love Bo-Katan. So I actually wouldn't mind seeing her in a relationship with Din, but I think it would need to be organic. I think I need to spend, even though we had a whole season with them, which I know, but I would like to see them flirting with each other a lot more. But even at I think it might have been the last episode or the episode before that, to where Din says, your song is yet to be written. And he said this very poetic thing, and I was like, oh. And even Bo-Katan gave him a look. I was like, oh, no, Din knows what he's doing. He's there. So I don't mind if they become a thing. I truly won't mind if that happens, because they're cute. And yeah. But in a perfect world, Din Cobb would be where it was at. I love Cobb Vanth. I think Din and Cobb's relationship kind of throughout the 2 seasons and also in Book of Boba Fett is so good. I love, 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 love Din Cobb. It is just so organic, and I know that's kind of like how they were talking with each other, but man, I don't know. Din Cobb just is so good. But I don't like that Cobb Vanth is kind of in a Bacta tank at the end of Book of Boba Fett. I hope he comes back in either the new season or the Mando Grogu movie and kind of just like bands together with Din and gets everyone from like Tatooine to fight Thrawn and everything. So I don't know. I really like Cobb Vanth, and I think Din Cobb is like one of the OG kind of Mando ships that honestly I hope never goes away. Ahsoka and Wolfren. Wolfren, I have been addicted to Wolfren. If Dave Filoni does not put forth Wolfren, I don't know what we're doing. At this point, I think there's no hope because both of the actors have been retweeting fan art, have been saying how much, they love these characters and love them together. A lot of even the score writers are retweeting a lot of fan art and everything. And it's just like, in the entire cast, even the man who plays Ezra, Among, don't know last name, love you. But he has been super, super supportive on the side of Wolfren, and just the entire community, I think, is really, really in it for Wolfren, especially in Ahsoka season 2, how we're going to have basically Shin and Sabine together on that planet. And of course, I don't know where Balin will kind of fall into that, but we will get to see definitely Shin and Sabine interact in some way. And I think that's going to be really, really fun. And I love them. I love them so much. They're amazing. Book of Boba Fett, and I'm going to go ahead and say Fennec and Boba. And before you go down in the comments, I ship them as a very, very strong friendship in the sense of Fennec's, honestly, like, I loved watching them both interact in Book of Boba Fett. And seeing Boba kind of save Fennec and Fennec help out Boba and kind of not even live out like a life debt, but her even having fun being there. She doesn't feel like, or at least on screen, it doesn't feel like Fennec is being forced to kind of protect Boba or be there with Boba at all. She seems like she's really having fun and liking to take down crime lords and kind of control Mos Espa. And I don't know, it just, honestly, both how they interact with each other is so organic and makes it really fun to watch them kind of just do what they do. And yeah, I love Fennec Shang. She's in like my top 5 favorite characters. And I love Boba Fett, and he's also in my top 5. So, definitely their friendship is and this is like a very, very strong friendship. This is not just like, oh no, we're just friends. Like, this is, they would go to the death for each of them. And I feel like that's really strong. And I hope in Book of Boba Fett season 2, if we get it, crossing my fingers, we will get to see more of that relationship and maybe even see, Fennec or Boba hurt in some way and the other wanting to like go save them and kind of rallying the troops together. Or also them kind of banding together in the Mando and Grogu movie and kind of helping out Mando. And yeah, so exciting. Next, we're going to go on to the sequels. I have 3 main ships. Now, okay, 2 of these are probably more popular than one of them, but it's my favorite, so I think y'all know what I'm going to say. But first, I'll talk about Reylo for a second. Now, Reylo is good, objectively. I don't mind Reylo. I think I just kind of, like, move on from it. I see them as, like, 2 characters together. I don't like Reylo in Force Awakens. I understand why people ship Reylo in The Last Jedi, and I'm not a huge fan of it in Rise of Skywalker. I think Last Jedi as a template for Reylo is really, really good. I'm a huge fan of the dyad in the Force. I have talked about this a couple other times on another episode, but the whole dyad premise is something that is not explored a lot in Star Wars, and of course, I believe was actually explored in the Knights of the Old Republic, but we get to see it here on screen for Reylo, and I really like it. I love Rey and Kylo's relationship in the sense of, especially in The Last Jedi, in the sense of her kind of understanding Kylo's story and why he would turn, and her trying to turn him and make him better. I'm not a huge fan of enemies to lovers in the sense of the other person wanting to change the other. To me, I'm a huge fan of enemies to lovers and them just kind of accepting each other for who they are. But I can definitely understand why people really like Raylo and why they ship it. And yeah, I think for canon reasons, I don't mind it at all. Um, One of my guilty pleasures is reading some Raylo Fix-It Tross Fix that keep Ben Solo alive, and he goes back with the Resistance and kind of just has a good old merry time. I think those are so cute and honestly some of the best fics I've read that just like make me so happy to read and make me just honestly kind of want to watch Tross again, because it gives me hope at the end. But I understand why people ship Raylo, and quite honestly, I totally respect it. And y'all are doing a great job. I see y'all on Twitter all the time and doing your, fix it fix and manips, and y'all great. Y'all good. So next I'm gonna talk about Finpo. Finpo should have been canon. I don't know what Disney was on, but Finpo I think at this point is kind of canon. I think we're just gonna go ahead and say it's canon. Um, Oscar Isaac and John Boyega. I mean, literally, they full on said like, "No, Finpo's like real. It's a thing. We're doing it." And I love the relationship. The minute they go on screen, I love it so much, and it's just so organic. It's just you could see it as a friendship. I totally respect if you see it as a friendship, but I see it in something so much more, and I think in the way that they interact with each other and how it's so organic. And I literally have no words. I mean, it's kind of out of all of these the closest thing we've gotten to like an on screen that's like not confirmed but like confirmed. And I think out of all of the ships, Finpo definitely should have been canon. I hope that in the Rey movie, it's kind of like there's a little side note that Rey says, like, oh, Finn and Poe are on their honeymoon or something. Like, even if John and Oscar don't come back, like, even just saying that is such a win for, Finpo lovers. I think, honestly, me personally, I would, of course, have take them actually in the movie, but I will just take a kind of vocal confirmation in saying that they're together. So, love Finpo, love them so much. Should have been canon. Lastly, we're going to talk about my favorite ship because I can't go through this video without talking about my favorite ship. I mean, it's just not going to happen. We're going to talk about Kylux. If you're not familiar or you don't know anything about my personal Twitter, basically it's a relationship between Kylo Ren and General Hux, and oh my gosh, it is so good. I will not waste any more time of like talking about them because I can go into a whole like introspection video, and I actually did do that when their comic came out and talking about their entire relationship. But as I said with Raylo, I like enemies to lovers, but not in the sense of them changing each other and them changing who they are. So for Kylux, they're both evil. They are both terrible, terrible people. I might write them a bit differently, but no, they are not good people at heart. But when they're in a relationship together, they don't kind of want to change each other, or they don't feel like it's a chore to change each other, that they accept them for who they are, and they, in a weird twisted way, they love each other. And it, of course, yes, was it ever going to be canon? There was like maybe a 1% chance that JJ or Ryan was going to write it. Probably not Ryan because he was very pro Raylo, but JJ was kind of going to write it in at the end. But and then I loved like how the actors were even, they liked, there was definitely a mutual disagreement between those characters, and the actors kind of acknowledging that and saying, oh yeah, no, they hate each other. And like a lot of people see that and go like, oh my gosh, well, if my ships said that about their characters, like I would hate myself. Like, no, like us Kyluxers, we love that, and we use it to our advantage in the sense of like, yes, no, they hate each other, but like how can their hate be turned into an actual kind of developing relationship within this war? So I love Kylux. If you're more interested in how I talk about them, I have a video about their hyperspace comic story that I go way more in depth on their ship. But they're my babies, and I love them so much. And that's my OTP. So that's gonna be it though for the actual movies. Honorable mentions, I'll say Leia and Holdo. I love them in Leia, Princess of Alderaan. Totally ship them. Rey and Rose, had to give a little shout out for them too. I've seen a lot of people actually ship them, like an overwhelming amount, and they were supposed to have a scene in Rise of Skywalker. So shout out to my Rey Rose lovers. Love you guys. And then of course Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Voss. I've been seeing so much, and I kind of love how everyone's kind of been in this movement to like ship them and get ready for like the new season of Bad Batch. And honestly, I'm all there for you guys. Total 100% support you guys, and y'all amazing. But what is your favorite ship? If it wasn't mentioned on this list, please let me know down in the comments. I tried to get the most popular, but I definitely could have missed some. So let me know if I missed any and which ones are your favorite. And have an amazing Valentine's Day. I know this can be a hard time for a lot of people. I know it's a hard time for me personally. But even if you're sitting there alone, do something that you love, do something for yourself. I bought myself a Valentine's Day Funko Pop. Those are literally the best. Such good gifts for yourself or for your partners. And if you are celebrating with someone, congratulations, and hope you do something special for them. And just know, love you guys as well. And thank you all so much for just supporting the channel. I've really appreciated just kind of how the numbers are doing for the new year. And, where can we go next? So, anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys